Okay, we're going to take a look more at the canvas, how to get it to appear, how to manipulate items on it, and so forth. So I'll right click on here, and I'm going to create a UI canvas. And I'm going to drop a text on there. Actually, yeah, text. And I'm going to go ahead and go to the scene, choose my canvas, and do Shift F. Don't know why it's always in the oops, opposite direction, but okay. So we got our text on there. I'll go ahead and move that up. I'll have that say num1. And I could duplicate that, but I'm just going to go ahead and right click on here and do UI, another text. Have that as num2. Right click on the canvas. I'll drop on a UI text box. Probably looking right at it. Input field. So that's where they're going to input their first number. I'll drop on another keep wanting to say text box because that's what we refer to it over in Visual Studio. There we go. Now we need a button. Then we're going to put our answer here. So I need another text. Actually, two more text. And I'll have this one say sum. And drop on another text. Put that there, and let's run that and see what it looks like. Probably shouldn't say new text to begin with, but besides that, it looks good. I'll put a number in here, click a button, should add them together and put the result here. Okay, so first thing we need to do is have some kind of capability to retrieve what's put into these boxes right here. And then let me change this new text to 0 since there's no answer to begin with. Okay, so I got this input field chose, and I'm gonna come over here, and you see there's an on value change and on end edit, and you could use those, but I'm gonna do an add component and choose new script, and num1 input text. Double click that. Now through here, I can set up some kind of variable that I could work with, and that would work. there'd be nothing wrong with that. Or you could set up the variable that you'd work with over in your button. For example, if I have up here public, and then I want to refer to this input field. Come up here using Unity Engine UI. Was an input field, yeah. So we can refer to that as I, and maybe a num1 I for input field. Now, by putting that up there, then over here, if I send that, attach that to Unity, send that to Unity. Then you see over here, I got a variable that I can reference, num1 underscore I. And that's attached to this input field. Now, if I actually go and drop this input field in here, kind of like attach it to itself, then through my code down here, I can access different items. You see there's a text here. I could set that equal to 0 initially. And then I click that attach to Unity. So now if I run this, you see it initializes it to 0. Now, there is another way of doing a find, but I was drawing a real blank in the last class on how to do a find on this, so you don't have to like attach the input field to itself. But that's one way you can refer to it. You can actually attach all of these to one item and then refer to them all directly like that. But definitely, if you want them set equal to 0 initially, then this is probably the best way, maybe. Okay, so now if I want to initialize the other one, if I come down here and I do the same type of thing, I want to create a script. And no memory, what do I call it? Num1 input text. So num2 input text. And double click that. Again, I want to come up here. Well, first I want to import in the items. Use Unity Engine UI. Down here, I want to create a public input field. I forget what I called the other one, but num2 underscore I. And then down here, I could refer to num2 underscore I dot text equals 0. So it kind of makes a oh, that's a string. Kind of makes a connection between a variable you can use. You can think of it as a variable you can use, and item on the form. Then over here, Again, I have a new input field here, and I have to drag the input field I'm on right onto that. Well, num2 underscore I, it's input field. There we go. Drag it on there. With the find, you should be able to access the text directly on that, but I'm drawing a real blank on that now. This works, and you see it defaults both of them 0. Now our goal is that I put a number in here, and I click there and put a number in there, and I click the button and it updates this. So let's take a look at that. Now I've made the connection already with this num2 underscore I right there, and the num1 underscore I. Now that allows me to access them in this manner. If I put a let's try to put a static on that, and put a static on this. And we attach those to Unity. We'll check it to make sure I didn't break anything. Doesn't allow us to set to 0 anymore. I was afraid it might do that. Not set to an instance of an object. Okay, well, I'm going to get rid of that. Static does that sometimes. Static would allow us to update it directly by referring to this class dot whatever this name is. Which is fine, because I could put that code behind an empty that would set this equal to 0, and that would work. That's assuming I didn't break the... Oh, I did break the connection. I made them static. Maybe that was the issue. Let's try static there. And try static here. Attach those to Unity. And so then, let me see, input field here. It broke. No, I can't even update it there. Okay. Well, forget static then. Attach that to Unity. Now let's look at our button. If we got our button here, I want to add a component. I want to drop a new script on there. Add button. I'm going to bring in these two input fields, and I want to drop it in this text field here. So I'm going to double click my script. I'll use Unity engine.ui, bring in that code. I'm going to bring in one public input field. I'll call it num1 string, num1s for string. Public input field. Actually, I could just call it num1, num2. Why do I have those? Well, I have two input fields. And then public text answer. That's going to be the answer blank here. Now I want to get rid of the update and the start. And I'm going to have a public void add the numbers. And I'm going to have num1, num2, and maybe I shouldn't name those same. N1, N2, and A and S answer. I'm going to say num1 is equal to int dot parse. And then I'll bring in num1 dot text. N2 is equal to int dot parse. Num2 dot text. My answer is going to equal to N1 plus N2. And then I'm going to write it back out to answer.text equals answer.toString. Now I'm going to talk more about what this is all doing after I finish setting it up. So I'll need to flip back and forth. Okay, so I just sent that to Unity. If I look at my button now, you see I have input field, text. I'm going to drag my first input field onto that one there. I'll drag my next input field onto this one here. And I'll drop, nice if I named it. I guess text 3 was the answer. So let me give that a different name. Text underscore answer. And back to my button. And again, I got those two input fields added on there, and I'll drop my text answer right there. Now, this script is here, but it's not actually being run. I have to program it on its on click. So I click the plus there. The option here. I don't see it. But anyway, if I drop the button, drag it, and put it on here, then I can choose the one I just created, whatever it was. Add the numbers. I don't know why you can't see it on here when you do this. Oh, it is there. Okay, I was under assets. If I click scene, I would see the button. So you should be able to you shouldn't have to drag it. You should be able to select it also. But anyway, once you choose that, then you choose this option. You choose this last one, because that's our class name. And then you look for the method you just created, which is add the numbers. Now let's run this and see if I forgot anything. Then I'll explain what it's doing. I don't want to explain it if it's not working. Three, four, click my button, and it adds it 7. Now, this is not necessarily the best way to do these. It's a very easy way, and if you don't got many items, you can get by with this. As mentioned this in an earlier class, if you had 200 variables you need to keep track of, you probably don't want to do it in this manner. I haven't read anything about it, but this makes me think of global variables. And global variables are such that they consume memory all the time, even when they're not currently being used, which isn't necessarily good. I'm not sure about that. Okay, I thought I put that back. Clear on play selected. Oops. None input field. Wonder how I lost that. That one's gone too. Okay. Let's try that out. Okay, good. Those are gone. Put 3 here, 4 here, and then add them. Okay, now I said I was going to explain what it's doing. So if I come to the button here, and add button. When I generically create an input field, 2 input fields, not called num1, num2, and I generically create one called text. By putting a public on here, that allows me to update these here. And so for this first one, the input field here, num1, I dragged this over here and made that association. So down here, when I'm referencing num1.text, what it's doing is coming up here and says, okay, here's the input field. It comes over here and says, okay, this is input field. Comes over here to input field and gets the text from here. When I reference num2.text here, it comes up here and says, okay, this is an input field called num2. And over here it sees, okay, that's input field, space, beginning parentheses 1, closing parentheses. Comes over here and gets that. And when I get ready to update answer, this right here, again, it knows that this association has been set up, that it's a text. Comes over here, looks for the text here, which is called text underscore answer. Comes over here, and it's going to be updating this right here. Now, I never have tried to do it, but in theory, you should be able to change these items on the fly too. Let's see if I can figure out how to access them. Font. Oh, that was easy. The font used by the text equals, of course, we just got one font in Unity. That isn't, I think we did. Yeah, Arial. It's never useful. How about font size? Font size equal to 50. So if I attach that to Unity, and run that, three, 4, and makes it so big I can't see it. Maybe I'll make it something more reasonable. Instead of 14, 8. If I had had my width a little bit better, then it probably would have been okay. Okay. Put 3 in here. 4 in there. And see how it makes it smaller? What I'm trying to indicate to you with this, not that you'd ever want to change this font size on that, is, but when you make this connection, these right here, you have full access to most items over here. I shouldn't say all of them, because I don't know if all of these are such you could change programmatically. But probably if I did a transform, I could access the position values here. maybe. Transform dot rotate. And axis and angles. What does it want for axis? It says vector 3. New vector 3, 1, 0, 0. 45. Let me get rid of this. Understanding how these are related helps you to figure out just how to play and see what your value should be. I don't know what this will do. Rotate about the... Oh, I did the X, didn't I? There's what it should look like. So it rotated about the X. So it kind of faced away from us. X, Y, Z. Don't know my own alphabet today. Okay, so put 3 and 4 in there. I can see it's kind of facing the other direction. But anyway. Now that's how you can control those. Is there any questions on those?
Nope.
Now I want to hide the canvas. So when I push a button, I want the canvas to go away. Because maybe you don't want this to pop up except for if they push a button or click a mouse button. If something happens, maybe you want to pop it up. Game's over. Maybe you want to pop up statistics. By the way, this is also something you can use for your debugging. For example, I'm not limited to just putting it on a button. If I drop an empty on here, where in the world's empty? Create empty. So I got an empty game object on here. And just to really emphasize that, this is the empty. Sometimes you can lose so much in the console that this is kind of a nice feature. If I click Add Component, New Script, Empty Script, double click that. I come over here. If I use Unity Engine .ui and I could have my public input field num1, public input field num2, public text answer. And then your empty over here. Oh, there it goes. You see you have these options. So you can drag your input fields in here. You could drag your text answer in here. You could drag anything in there, and then be able to access all these items from within this script. If you wanted to check something, because if you think about it, a button is only being run when you click the button, not all the time. Here, you could put in the update. Now you could have an update over in the other one too, but an empty is really nice because then you can use it for debugging purposes. And if it's just an empty for debugging, you can delete it when you're ready to implement your game, and you haven't broken any code. But down here, then I could do a debug.log and what I call it, num1 dot text. Attach that to Unity. Got my console there. I'm playing it. Now this is going to be a example that doesn't make much sense. See how it's all zeros there? If I change that to 3, see how it changes to 3, 34, 345. This just demonstrates to you that you can use your empty to print out results if you want. Now, I don't know how you could stop it from going over and over like that, but I suppose you could program it such that you only prints out the values of everything when you push a button. Because you could, in the update here, you could put a if key code, no, if input dot get key down, key code dot D for debug, then I'll print out the value of that. So now if I run the game, you'll see the console shouldn't have all those messages anymore. Well, if I click it, see it doesn't have those. But if I press D, it prints the value. D again prints the value. If I change that to 3, if I do a D, see it prints the value. So again, you can use that for debugging. Now really what I want drop the empty on there though is I want to hide the canvas. And same idea here. I can drop a canvas on here, but it's not going to benefit me a whole lot. If I go back to my empty script, and I don't really understand this, I can drop a canvas on here, give it a name like C, attach that to Unity. And again, what we'll see pop up is it's got a place now where you can do the connect the canvas to that script. So I can drag this canvas and put it on there. And we've made our connection. So then down here, in theory, if input dot get key down, key code dot H for hide, unhide, I should be able to do a C dot, and it can access different items here. But it doesn't access anything I can really use directly for this unless I choose game object. I never tried that. Let me try that. Game object dot Sure enough, set active. I did that differently earlier because I couldn't find set active. And what this does is it shuts it on or off. So if I set this as true, it'll show it. If I set this equal to false, then it won't show it. Well, you can do this different ways, but if I do false for hide, let's see what it does. So I run my game. You got this canvas right in the middle of everything. If you press your H, then it hides it. Now, if I wanted to program it so that it would hide it and appear, then I could come up here and I could say public boolean visible, canvas visible. It's whatever you want to call it, equals true. Then down here, if they push the H button, I'll check if canvas visible, that means if it's true. And I could actually put an equals true in here to really emphasize that. Then, let me see, canvas visible means it's showing. So false would mean that I'm not showing it. And I could set canvas visible to false. Now notice canvas visible is false. You could actually, instead of hard coding false and true in here, you could say not canvas visible. So I'd flip it to the opposite in terms of putting this value in here. I wonder if that would always work. Not canvas visible. And then I set this to not canvas visible. Boolean is strange at times. Sometimes it makes it hard to understand by doing that. That should flip it to the opposite, I think. So let's attach it to Unity and see. Now if I do H, hides it, H again shows it. Okay, yeah, that's how you make it visible and invisible. Now with our settings here, you could control aspects of the animation. Like if you wanted to control speed, perhaps, then you could use this. Now let's talk a little bit about animation. And guess I ought to drop a plane on there. So do ask 3D object plane. There it is. I have no clue where it's at. Okay, so I do Shift F. Brings my plane into view. Now I'm going to change my scale. Make that bigger, and I'll drop a texture on it. So I'll go back to my project. And import new asset. Choose picture. And brick. And then drag and drop that on a plane up here. Puts a brick. Let's see what our game looks like. That's interesting. Obviously not 0 or Z. Obviously not X. Zero, 1, -10. Let's see where our plane is. Huh. 0, 0. Okay, that's better. I don't know how that. I guess that's where my canvas is located at. Guessing. Okay, so now my game looks distorted because I just made it bigger. But at least I have a floor. Okay, drop a cube on here. So game object, 3D object, cube. Zero, 3, -10. Where in the world's my camera? 0, 3, -10. There we go. And -25. And maybe make that a little bit bigger so I can see it. Need to make it go back a little bit. Camera. -0, 1, -25. Okay, that's good there. Then I'll drop a texture on it. And okay. And so now I want it to rotate. So I got my cube selected here, and I want to do an animation. So I'll go to Window, Animation, Animation. Click Create down here, and Cube Animation. Turn on my recorder, and I have this selected, so if I make any change over here, then it'll be, if I do 0 there, you see it makes change. It also creates my keyframes over here. Now that was my position. If I now set something here, see how it adds in my rotation? I can put that back to 0. Now I'm going to come over to here, the end, and I want to change my rotation to 259. You can also just, or 359. 359. And again, it creates just what I've changed. So it doesn't change my position, looks like, but just changes my rotation. Specifically, it changes just my Y. I don't think we'll see our other ones here. Yeah, we do. 0, 0. Okay. Now, if I play this, let me shut off the recording there. You see it rotate around like that. Okay, now I want to look at my animator on this. So I got my cube selected. Over here is my animator. When you create an animation, it automatically creates an animator. And you can double click the controller here, it brings up this screen. By default, entries go into cube animation. Maybe I don't want to play right away. So you right click over here, you create state and create an empty. I learned how to do this the other day. Before, we had to do kind of a finagle around to get the entry to point to the new state. I found out you simply right-click and say Set as Layer Default State. And now if I run this, you won't see it automatically move. Now, actually, let me run it again. And if I choose my animator, it's animating. On the entry, it's sitting there doing this over and over. Now we're going to program it to run this cube animation, which is the animation down here we just created. So you can do this in different areas. The one I'm going to attach it to is my cube. You could also do this via the empty by dropping a game object, public game object G on there, and then making a connection between your cube and by dragging and dropping it. Just kind of like we did with the canvas. So it's a powerful tool, allows you to interconnect those. But I'm going to do it right within this. And choose new script and cube moving. Double click that. Okay, so I'm going to have a public animator animate. I need to make a connection to this. I'm probably going to have to cheat and go look at some code. I think it's get component animator. I believe so. And then this down here, I do animate.play, and then I put in the name of the animation I just created. This one down here is called Cube Animation. You can also see that in the animator window, Cube Animation. Now I don't want to play it unless I've done something. So let me see. Input dot get key down or key code space. I want to play that animation. Stop that. Now come over here. And I didn't make the connection between my animator and the script. Let me go back. Here we have our cube. And remember, I created this animator, and it says none for the animator. This is where we have to choose. Click there. And which one do I want? Leave that one. Oh, that's waiting for me. I press the space bar, and now it's animating. We could program it so that it stops animating. For example, I can have up here a Boolean flag again indicating whether it's going or not. Public animation running. Public Boolean animation running. And initially I'll set it equal to false because it's not running to begin with. Down here, if I press the space bar, I want to do some checking. If the animation's running, I want to stop it. And let's see if I can remember how to do this. Stop playback. Let's try that. Else. I just muted myself. Or not muted myself, but muted you. Hopefully I didn't do that earlier on. Wish I'd quit pushing that button. Let's see if stop playback is one. Okay, so now press space. Space does not shut it off, so I don't got the right code there. Play. Animation.play. Let's see what how it's overloaded. Plays a state. I don't see anything stopping a state. So notice when I do a dot play, it's a little cube. So if I do an animation dot, I can use my arrow keys and scroll up here, and I'm looking at all the cubes. Broadcast message, crossfade, equals, force state normalized time, get animator, get behavior, get Boolean, get component. These are all things we can program. I'm assuming get is not the right one, but okay. Has state, interrupt match target, is in transition, is parameter controlled, match target, play in fixed time, rebind. What's rebind? Rebind all enemy. Okay. Reset trigger. What's this do? Resets the value of the given trigger parameter. We looked at triggers last time. Update. Evaluates based on delta timeline. Animation dot game object dot what if I deactivated it? See what that does. I'm just curious. I didn't play this earlier, so I haven't looked up the code for how to stop an animation. Okay, spacebar goes. Spacebar does not stop it. I can destroy it, but anyway, we won't worry about that since I haven't looked it up. Well, actually, I could probably do a search for play. Let me see, animation. Oftentimes, when I'm trying to remember how to do something, I just go to Google, type in Unity animation. Yeah, we're playing an animation, and how to stop. Animation stop. There you go. I swear I looked up stop. But we made the connection to the animator, not necessarily to the animation. Public animation. Animation. Animation dot stop. There it is. So how can I access that here? I could probably get away with that, but I'm not sure starting the animator via the play here should just start the animation. Attach that to Unity. Now the problem with that is this here needs to be associated with an animation. So if I click that, here's my cube animation. Then let's try it again. Cube animation. If I drag, interesting. Here's my cube animation. Drag and drop it there. Hides inherited member. Use a new keyword if hiding was intended. Didn't like my name, I think. Okay, attach that to Unity. Usually one letter of variables isn't good. Okay, then choose my cube animation. Still doesn't do it. Huh. I don't know. I'll have to play with that and see how to stop the animation. Okay. Now one way you can definitely stop it from going is to set your loop. That would cause it from looping over and over. One other thing I want to play with on that. Oh, animator window. Okay, right here is this has a speed component. What I'm curious about is if I can access that speed component. So I made the correlation between the animator and the animation. And the question is, before I start playing it, can I set to speed? Speed equals 5. Okay, so attach to Unity. Stop that. And yeah, I think that's going faster. Maybe. We set it to 50 because I wasn't not sure. Okay, now I run this. I think it's going faster. It's hard to say because with it being that fast, it may just you can't see it actually moving. If that makes sense. Now, what I really want to do is I want to control that with one of these boxes up here. Because we're trying to make a connection between our canvas and which is your settings, because you can set your settings there and how you can control aspects of your game. Okay, so remember our button here where we added two numbers together, and I dropped on this num1 so I could access it directly. Well, on our cube here, we can do the same thing. We got our code down here, cube moving, which is over here. And up here, I can access public. I can not access it because I haven't brought in the library yet. Library files, user interface. And I can retrieve public input field I. I'll just call it I. Not a great name, but I'm drawing a real blank here. So that right there, if I attach that to Unity, I've made that connection there. I now need to, I got my cube selected. I now see I here. I'm going to drag the input field, whichever one I want. Which one do I want? Oh, my game. Well, I know which one. The input field's for the first one. Okay, so I want to drag that first one over to here and drop it in the eye, which now makes that connection such that when I access that variable I, it'll gather whatever text is here. Okay, so now I made that connection down here. I'm going to have speed, assuming it's an integer. And then I'm going to say speed equals to I dot. Now text retrieves the text of it. And that's going to be connecting an integer to a string. So I need to do my int.parse. Like this. And then down here, I'm going to refer to speed. So what this should do is I made this connection to the input field over here. When they input a number in there and you press the space bar, then it'll change the speed. So let's attach that to Unity. And see, everything's still attached over here, so that's good. Put a 1 in here, press my space bar, moves at that speed. Put a 2, press my space bar, it's a little bit faster. 3, press my space bar, I think it's faster. See, 3000, press my space bar. Again, it may be doing it so much, I'm guessing, assuming I'm changing it all. How about if I put 0? Okay, it is changing it. Wasn't sure with my eyes. Put 1. I'd made an integer, so I wonder if it definitely can't take decimals because I made an integer. Does that make sense how to connect together canvas settings with a game object?
Yeah.
Okay. And again, that's mechanics of how to do it. Your imagination comes into what do you need to change. Speed of your animations isn't probably something you need to change. But by the way, that does tell us how we can stop an animation. If you set speed to 0, then that stops it right there. Not the way I think you're supposed to stop it. But if I come back here, this is our play. So if I had my Boolean up here, animation running, I can check if animation running, that means it's currently running. I'd want to stop it. And I could take my animation speed, 0. And I want to change animation running. Animation running equals not animation running. Switch it to the opposite. Else. We'll do that. And then set my animation running equals not animation running. In theory, when you put it in the if part and the else part, you should be putting it outside of the if structure altogether. So it should be down here. Okay, so if animation is running, this stops it. And I set my animation running to false initially. So if it's false and it press space, okay. Had to think through the Boolean of that. Okay, so let me run it. Press space bar, doesn't work, so my code's bad. Oh. Try that again. Okay, so now it's running. Press space bar, stops it. Space bar stops, starts it. Okay, so now it's working. Not the slickest way, but you start to see that there's multiple ways you can do different things in these packages. I don't know if they meant for it to be that flexible to begin with. I assume they did. I would like to read someday about efficiency's sake, because I've been tending lately to start using this too much, where I put everything up here so I can control it easier by dropping those in here. But I don't know if that's necessarily the most efficient way. I want to give you a short project on that. And the project will be to not to do all the animation part, because I still have a little bit to work with on that. But the project I want you to do is I want you to create a canvas, and I want you to have 2 blanks here. And when you click the button, I want you just to multiply them together. So I just want you to get some exposure with doing it. Same thing we did in class, except for instead of summing, you're going to multiply them. Does that make sense on what I'm looking for in the project?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll go ahead and stop there. I'll stop the recording.